All right, so let's talk about the big show in Edmonton, Alberta, at the Rogers Place. This is the home of the Edmonton Oilers, and this is one of the very first events at Rogers Place, so it'll be a nice way to break it in with some UFC action. And the main event is Demetrius Johnson against Ray Borg.
That's right. And Johnson is going for a UFC record with this fight.
Pirates.
No, 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 not that record. In fact, that's a record he's never going to hold. Let's just be honest about it. What I'm talking about is if he is successful in defending his flyweight title, he becomes the most successful champion of all time. More title defenses than Anderson Silva, more title defenses than anybody else. He would have 11 successful defenses of the flyweight title.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, and it just goes to show what kind of champion he is. And he might not set a buy rate record, but you gotta respect that record if he gets it.
Well, speaking of you gotta respect it, let's not completely overlook Ray Borg here. I mean, he's only on a 2-fight win streak, but he is 5 out of his last 6 overall. And the guy that he beat to earn himself this title shot, Jussier Formiga, is a pretty formidable fighter in his own right. So you can't really say that Ray Borg isn't a quality competitor. Maybe this isn't lighting the world on fire in terms of buy rates, as you already hinted at, but it is a very suitable opponent for Demetrius Johnson to go out there and prove he's the best.
Yeah, I mean, this will be a great fight to watch on pay-per-view, and I'm looking forward to it. But how can you, but how can you bet against DJ?
I guess it just depends on if you're tempted. That's what we always talk about with these lines is they put them out there at certain levels to tempt you into making that bet. Like all those people who put money on Conor McGregor before he fought Floyd Mayweather thinking, man, this guy wins, I'm going to cash in. Well, obviously that didn't happen, but that was the whole reason those lines got to the point they did was, hey, here's how to convince you that it's worth taking a shot at this, and then we just collect all your money when you turn out to be wrong. So I'm sure there's somebody out there who's looking at plus 800 for Ray Borg right now saying, man, if he just lands that one rainbow punch, which is the phrase we heard everybody say about Conor knocking out
Mm-hmm.
Floyd, is like, man, if he just lands that one rainbow punch, I'll make so much money. So there are some people out there that are looking at plus 800 going, I'll take that bet.
Maybe he'll surprise him with a spinning back fist.
I don't think Demetrius is going to fall for that. In fact, the one thing that Demetrius has, as much as he's got power and technique and submission ability, we know all of these things are in his repertoire. But the thing that I think Demetrius Johnson proves time and time again in his fights is speed. And in his case, speed kills because nobody can keep up with him. Nobody can lay a hand on him. He hits you and then he's gone. I mean, this is the kryptonite for everybody else in the division, and it's why he's a minus 1250 favorite, is because we've yet to see really anybody do really significant damage to him. We've seen him maybe once in a blue moon get popped, but we've never seen anybody just absolutely rain down on him in a fight.
So
At least at
maybe my
flyweight.
question,
Now, I'm not talking about other weight
maybe my
classes,
question
but
should,
at flyweight. Go ahead.
maybe my question should be not if DJ wins, but if this fight goes to the judges.
Well, I suppose there's probably a prop bet for that too. Not that I'm looking at them right now, but if I was to throw out a proposition, I would say Demetrius Johnson in 3 rounds.
Really?
I will say
Interesting.
if it's going to be a statement fight for him, then let it be a statement fight. Let him not only have the most title defenses of all time, but do it in such an impressive manner that nobody can take it away from him.
For me, I'm thinking DJ. I'm going to lean more towards the 4th round. I think I think Borg will give
Gas
him
out?
more of a. Yeah, but I think Borg will give him more of a fight. I don't think it's going to go 5, but I think the fourth DJ will be like, the hell with this, I'm in it now.
All right. Well, speaking of gas tanks, that does lead us to Amanda Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko. And the one thing that's always been kryptonite for Nunes is when fights go long and she gets tired. And Shevchenko is not the kind of person who wears out very easily in a fight. So you look at these two, you look at the issues between them, and you think to yourself, man, this really should be a main event. It's kind of a shame it's not. It's kind of a shame it's a co-main event. They should both be considered main events.
Absolutely, co-main event label for sure. It's just the power for Nunes and Shevchenko. It's not like these guys are pitter patter punchers.
No. and you just gotta wonder if this goes 5 rounds instead of 3, does Shevchenko take the title from her? Because that third round, the first time they fought, that's when Shevchenko really started to seem to get her number.
Yeah, but then you go into the deep waters, and you really don't know what you're gonna get in the fourth and fifth when it comes to this fight, because obviously it's gonna go 1 to 2 ways, but how the coin is flipped is, it's basically who's gonna go into their corner, and the coaches are giving them instructions, and it's the fourth round. Who's got more in the gas tank? Who has inflicted more damage? Has there been an accidental eye poke? Has there been some type of foul? I mean,
All right, well, yeah,
yeah.
you're positing all kinds of variables that are completely out of our control. So I'm going to look at the variables that are in our control, which is already completed fights. And if you look at 2 of the recent fights that were lost by Amanda Nunes, they were to Kat Zingano, which went to the 3rd round, and she got tired and got TKO'd, and Sarah D'Alelio, who took her all 3 rounds and just tired her out and got the decision. So there's a recipe for success to follow here. And again, if you look at their previous fight, it was the 3rd round where Shevchenko really started to turn it on and cause Amanda Nunes to falter. And now she's got 2 more rounds to do it. But that doesn't mean that there won't be things like eye pokes or concussions or bleeding that cause different variables we can't foresee. It's just there is a recipe to success for Shevchenko based on previous Nunes fights, which is why right now, as of the recording of this show, Shevchenko is a very narrow, and I mean like coin flip narrow favorite at -120 to +100.
That's fucking even odds there.
Pretty much.
All right, let's move on to Rafael dos Anjos against Neil Magny. This is
Wait.
a fight I'm very interested in.
Wait, how are you going to skate on that? You still have to make a prediction. Just because it's a coin flip doesn't mean you don't have to call heads or tails. You still have to say something.
I'm going to say Nunes by a 4th round knockout.
I'm going to say Nunes by majority decision.
Oh God, don't do that.
I'm going to do that. I'm actually calling for one judge to score a draw and her to win on 2 other cards. It's going to be that close.
Oh, I hate majority decisions as much as I love fucking interim championship belts. Oh, all right, let's move on to Dos Anjos and Magny.
All right, well, Dos Anjos is -190. Magny is +165. Do you agree?
I bet on Magny in this fight.
All right, give your reasoning.
Well, we talked about fighters on the down tail of their careers, and Magny, look at what he's done over the last 18 months, and look at Dos Anjos. This is a fight that Magny can definitely win.
I think you've got a fair argument. The only fight that he probably looked bad in out of his last 5 fights is against Lorenz Larkin, who basically used that to propel himself to a title shot in Bellator. So, more power to him. He beat Neil Magny and got himself a better deal somewhere else. So, that just shows you what it means to beat Neil Magny. So,
Thanks for the bigger paycheck.
Right, exactly. But I feel you may be on to something with Dos Anjos here because, I mean, he looked decent against Tarek Safadine, who we were coincidentally talking about earlier, but in those Tony Ferguson and Eddie Alvarez fights, he clearly was not the fighter he used to be as the champion. He got smoked by Eddie Alvarez pretty quickly, and then he got pretty well handed his ass by El Kukui in their fight, who again, he used that fight to propel himself higher up to now where he's going to be fighting for an interim title with Kevin Lee. So there's definitely guys who've gained more from their wins than these two have fell in their losses, but I would say there's at least a potential that Dos Anjos is ripe for the picking. So I'm going to agree with you here. I'm actually going to call for the upset.
No, it's not much of an upset, though. It's not like it's plus 200 or 300.
No, it's not like Ray Borg beating Demetrius Johnson. It's not outrageous or anything.
Anything can happen, though. I mean, once that gate closes, but I don't see it here for sure.
No, but I think you're right. If there's one fight you want to take a chance on, this would probably be it.
Now, what about Iri Latifi and Tyson Pedro?
Now, this one is the coin flippiest of coin flip because they are both favorites.
Yeah.
Minus 130 Latifi, minus 110 Pedro. It's you literally toss a coin in the air.
You toss a coin in the air, it's going to stand on its end.
Yes, it won't even fall over. You're right.
Stop me if you've heard this before, but Pedro is an Australian of Samoan heritage.
Yeah, that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
I saw that in my notes. I'm like, I'm circling that fact right now.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, you see him in UFC twice before, beating Kali Roundtree and Paul Craig. Both first round, both in 4 minutes, roughly. It's interesting. In fact, he's never been outside of the first round. His last fight at 4 minutes and 10 seconds was his longest UFC fight. Right. So, based on that, we're looking for a quick finish here. And Latifi...
Well, Latifi's got a lot of first-round wins, too. It's how he beat Cyril Diabate, Chris Dempsey, Hans Stringer, Sean O'Connell. I mean, it's not like Latifi isn't a first-round finisher in his own right.
But at least he's seen the deep waters of the third round. Of course, in UFC, his 3 losses, 2 of them come,
actually, I would say
the first round.
All 3 of his losses actually show the caliber of a fighter Latifi is, because you look, he got beat by Mousasi, Blachowicz, and Bader. So you got to be a guy on that level to get Latifi out of there, which is why I'm actually going to pick Latifi to win, even though it's a coin flip.
I have no problem picking Latifi, and you're right. Bader, Mousasi, and Blachowicz, no problem there. The problem I have is knockout, and a decision, but that decision was over 4 years ago.
Right.
So I'm going to go with experience. I'm going to go with Latifi.
I agree. And then we got Lil Heathen, Jeremy Stevens against Gilbert Melendez. And right now the line on this one is pretty much coin flip too. It's minus 115 for Stevens and minus 105 for Melendez. So you got another coin standing on its end instead of going one side or the other.
Oh man, don't make me choose on this one. It's brain versus heart again. My heart wants Stevens to win, but my brain, it's going with Melendez. I'm going to say decision for Melendez, 2-1.
I disagree. I think with 4 losses in his last 5 fights, I get the feeling that Gilbert Melendez has peaked and started the decline of his career. And I think with the prodigious punching power of Jeremy Stevens, he is exactly the wrong guy for Melendez to face right now, because Stevens will just go in there and eat him alive if he makes even one mistake.
Well, I don't know. It's going to be a good fight.
Oh yeah,
no doubt about that.
This is probably going to be your barn burner. It's a great fight to open the pay-per-view with, because Stevens almost never has a boring fight. In fact, that's part of the reason they keep him around, even though he's lost 3 of his last 4, is because he always goes out there and delivers exciting fights.
Now, Stevie, before I talk about the prelims, I'm just going to ask you, of the 5, 9, 10, 12 fights, so there's 24 fighters. First time there's a show in Edmonton, so it's a Canadian UFC show. How many fighters are from Canada?
If I'm looking at this card and just picking based on the names that sound familiar to me, I'm going to say 3.
5.
Okay, I'm assuming Cajun Johnson would be one of them.
Yes.
And...
He fought at the Tough Nations.
Right, exactly. That's why I was going by familiar names. I'm thinking Mitch Clark.
Yes.
Okay, I'm 2 for 2. Let's see, who else? Sarah Maras?
Yes.
All right,
That's 3.
3 for 3. Gavin Tucker?
Yep, that's 4.
Shit, now who's the other one? Can I go perfect 5 for 5? I feel like we're doing law radio trivia now. Is it rhyme time? Because I feel like I should be getting a t-shirt from barbershopwindow.com or something. Who's number 5? I'm going to say... Sarah McMahon.
No.
Oh, shit. Who's number 5?
Arjan Bahular.
I never would have gotten that. I would not have known it was Arjan.
From Richmond, BC. He's of Indian Sikh descent.
Okay, see, I would have thought he was an Indian fighter with that name. I would not have guessed he was Canadian.
But still, of the main card, no Canadians.
Right, they're all in the prelims or on Fox Sports. They're not on the main card, which is kind of curious for a pay-per-view in Edmonton, but what are you going to do? That's their decision, not ours to make. So you're going to just take the fights wherever they fall.
Now, as far as the prelims go, I mean, Sarah McMahon, always entertaining. Henry Cejudo and Wilson Reis is on the prelim card?
Well, I think that's because they feel Cejudo has some more proving himself to do now. He's taken a step back and has to refigure some things out. So they've given him a winnable fight. He's minus 340 to plus 280 going into it. And if he wins that, he can move back up to the main card.
I have a secret. I think this fight might go to the ground.
Oh, gee, you think? With a wrestler of Cejudo's level? No, that'll never happen.
The stand-up battle. Come on now.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes when you get 2 really great wrestlers, that's actually what happens, is they are so evenly disposed in that category of their skill sets that they end up standing up and trading.
Well, look, Brock Lesnar can win by submission. Anything's possible.
Oh, so. Yeah, that's true.
You know, Gavin Tucker, Rich Glenn could be good. Mitch Clark and Alex White could be good. The one thing about Gavin Tucker, I saw this and it made me laugh. He's from St. John's and from not St. John's, St. Anthony, sorry, but he's from Newfoundland and Labrador. Not many Newfie fighters out there, but he's fighting out of Halifax. I used to live out in Halifax, so good East Coast food out there. But you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing an East Coaster fighting sort of in the prairies, not exactly the West Coast like Vancouver, but it's always good to see a Canadian from one end of the country go into another end to represent the country. So
right on, and he is the favorite. He's minus 240 against Glenn.
And his nickname is the Governor.
Ah, good day, Governor. Hello, Governor.
All right. So that's gonna do it for the show this week. Stevie, are there any plugs you want to throw out there for Thursday Night AMP?
I'll just say tune in to hear our thoughts on Raw and SmackDown, NXT, and anything else going on in the world of wrestling. Controversies abound this week with Sexy Star, Jeff Jarrett, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, there's been some breaking news there, and man, I'm curious to see what happens with the Sexy Star Rosemary injury, because that was when that hit the fan, that really hit the fan real fast.
Well, here's a little spoiler for Thursday Night AMP. She's been stripped of the title.
Oh, jeez. Well, I mean, didn't Didn't Nitro's girlfriend get stripped for not even no reason whatsoever before?
I
So
know, that's the whole stupidity of the thing, is that Sexy Star got the title when Taya was stripped for no reason, and now she's been stripped for good reason. So, this is a title that's getting defended by nobody because it keeps getting stripped from everyone.
speaking of stripped, did John Jones get stripped yet?
No, but he did make a rather curious claim that I'm surprised you didn't bring up before now.
Well, the thing is, like when we do the news, we try to do the most recent as to the recording time,
Right.
and I'd be amiss if I didn't mention that the second test came back and the blood test was clean, but the steroid he popped for is only visible on the urine test.
Right, and he was trying to claim, well, look at the blood test, it's clean. It's like, no, stupid, Tyranobol doesn't show up in a blood test, so that proves nothing.
Uh, this will not end, will it?
It will not end well. It will end, it won't end well.
Well, I'm wondering what the next step is. I guess time will tell. I hate saying that, but it's true in this case.
The irony is I was just listening to a rap song called Time Won't Tell by LP right before we recorded this show.
Is that the one with the meet you outside girl?
No, no, you're thinking of something completely different.
All right. Well, I do want to say our thoughts and prayers are with everybody in Texas right now with the devastation of Hurricane Harvey. And if you're watching the news this week, Hurricane Irma, man, if you live in Florida, get out now. Just it's scary.
Actually, you know what? They're probably going to tell you the same thing they did in Houston, which is if everybody in southern Florida tried to leave all at once, that'd just back up all the highways and the interstates, and people would be trapped in their cars with rising floodwaters. That's a recipe for a big humanitarian disaster with many, many people dead or injured. So
Yeah.
you're probably better off sheltering in place. Don't do anything rash. Don't try to pack up all your belongings and hit the road and head north, because you're better off hunkering down in place. Just board up your windows and stay safe.
Well, they've already said, like in some parts, mandatory evacuations, and they've canceled an NFL football game that was supposed to be this Sunday coming up. And, it's something where it's hard to predict because they don't know if the storm is going to turn and hit Florida or if it's going up to the Carolinas. It's a really scary situation. I'm hoping everybody who, if you're listening to this and you're in Florida, that you are safe and that
Just follow the best advice you're given. If you're told to hunker down, hunker down. If you're in a mandatory evacuation, evacuate.